The alarm bells rang across the command center of the Galactic Coalition station. Red lights flashed on every screen as officers rushed to their posts. Something was very wrong in the Outer Rim territories. Admiral Zethkara stood tall at the main console, his forearms working quickly across the control panels. The Vorthic Empire had been part of the Coalition for over 200 years, and he had never seen the emergency systems activate like this. His scaled skin showed the deep blue color that meant he was worried. "Report." He barked to his communications. "Officer." Lieutenant Miratul, a young Zephyrian with large compound eyes, turned from her station. Her voice was shaking. "Sir, we have lost all contact with the human Third Fleet. They were on routine patrol near the Kepler 442 system when they just disappeared." Zethkara's eyes narrowed. The humans had only joined the Coalition 50 years ago, but they had proven to be good allies. Their ships were not as advanced as some other species, but they were reliable and their crews were brave. A whole fleet did not just disappear. "Define disappeared, Lieutenant," he said, walking over to her station. "Sir, at 0800 hours Coalition Standard Time, all 200 human vessels stopped responding to communications. Our long-range sensors show no trace of them. No debris, no energy signatures, no distress signals. It's like they never existed." Another officer, Commander Velther from the crystalline Resonari species, looked up from his science station. His body was made of living crystal that glowed softly in the dim light. "Admiral, I have been monitoring the quantum communication networks. The last transmission from the human fleet was a standard status report." Captain Martinez of the flagship Earth's Pride reported that all operations were normal and continuing as planned. Zethkara felt a chill run down his spine. In all his years of service, he had seen many battles and disasters. Ships were destroyed, crews were lost, but there were always signs. Always some trace left behind. This was different. This was impossible. "How long ago was this last transmission?" he asked. "Exactly 47 minutes ago, sir," Velther replied. "And sir, there is something else." The transmission cut off in the middle of a word. Captain Martinez was saying all systems operational, and we are proceeding to Sector 7 Alpha as ordered. We will report again in 2 hours as schedule, and then nothing. The bridge fell silent except for the humming of the computers and the soft beeping of the monitoring systems. Everyone knew what this meant. Something had happened to the human fleet, something fast and complete. Zethkara turned to his tactical officer. "Captain Rothmer, I want you to contact all Coalition ships in that sector. Tell them to converge on the Kepler 442 system immediately, and send a priority message to Coalition Command. We need our best investigation teams out there now." "Yes." "Sir?" The tactical officer, a member of the warrior race called the Drakneri, began sending orders across the communication network. Within minutes, reports started coming in from other Coalition vessels. The patrol ship Starwind reported that they had been only 3 light years away from the human fleet when they disappeared. Their captain, a Zephyrian named Clichter, said that one moment his sensors showed 200 human ships spread across a defensive formation, and the next moment they showed empty space. "It happened in less than a second," Captain Clichter reported over the communication link. "I have never seen anything like it. There was no flash of light, no energy discharge, no explosion. They were just gone." More reports came in from Coalition monitoring stations throughout the sector. Every single one told the same story. The human fleet had simply vanished without any warning or trace. "Admiral," Zethkara felt the weight of command pressing down on him. 200 ships meant over 50,000 human lives. 50,000 people who had families waiting for them back on Earth and the human colonies. These were not just numbers on a report. These were living beings who had trusted the Coalition to keep them safe. "Admiral," Lieutenant Miratul called out, "we are receiving an urgent transmission from Earth Command. Admiral Chun wants to speak with you immediately." The main screen flickered and showed the face of Admiral Sarah Chun, the human commander of Earth Space Forces. Even through the communication link, Zethkara could see the worry in her eyes. Humans were good at hiding their emotions, but not this time. "Admiral Zethkara," she said, her voice steady but tense. "I need to know everything you know about my missing fleet. These are my people out there. Admiral Chun, I wish I had more information to give you. Your third fleet vanished completely at 0800 hours. We have found no trace of them, no debris, no energy signatures. It appears to have happened instantaneously." Admiral Chun's face grew even more serious. "That's impossible. Ships don't just disappear. There has to be an explanation." "I agree," Zethkara replied. "That is why I'm sending our best investigation teams to the area. The Coalition will not rest until we find out what happened to your people. I'm sending additional human ships to assist in the search," Admiral Chun said. "The Fifth Fleet is already on its way." After the communication ended, Zethkara stood quietly for a moment. Around him, his crew continued their work, but he could feel the tension in the air. Everyone was thinking the same thing. If a whole fleet could disappear like this, what did it mean for the safety of the galaxy? Commander Velther approached him. "Admiral, I have been analyzing the sensor data from the time of the disappearance. There is something strange." "What is it?" Zethkara asked. "The quantum field readings from that area show unusual fluctuations. Very small, but they started about 30 seconds before the fleet vanished. It's almost like space itself was rippling." This was new information. Zethkara turned to face his science officer fully. "Rippling? What could cause that?" "I don't know, sir. I have never seen readings like this before, but whatever happened, it wasn't natural. Someone or something caused this." The idea that someone had the power to make an entire fleet disappear was terrifying. The Coalition had enemies, but none with technology like this. The hegemony of worlds had powerful weapons, but nothing that could instantly destroy 200 ships without leaving any trace. "Sir," the communications officer called out, "we are receiving distress signals from the outer colonies. Several civilian ships have reported seeing strange lights in space near the Kepler 442 system. They say the lights appeared just before the human fleet vanished." Zethkara felt his stomach sink. If civilians had seen something, it meant this event was not a secret military operation. It was something else entirely. "What kind of lights?" he asked. "They describe them as blue and white, moving in patterns that don't match any known ship propulsion systems. One cargo captain says they looked like dancing stars that moved in perfect formation." Over the next hour, more reports came in. Coalition ships from across the sector were racing toward the Kepler 442 system, but early reports from the fastest vessels were not encouraging. The space where the human fleet had been was completely empty. No wreckage, no energy traces, no signs of battle. Captain Rothmar looked up from his tactical station. "Admiral, the first Coalition investigation ship has arrived at the coordinates. Captain Vorthak reports that he finds nothing unusual except for some minor gravitational disturbances." "Gravitational disturbances?" Zethkara asked. "Yes, sir. Very small changes in the local gravity field. As if something very massive was there and then wasn't." This was getting stranger by the hour. Zethkara had seen many mysteries in his long career, but nothing like this. Fleets could be destroyed, but they left debris. They could be captured, but there would be signs of struggle. They could retreat, but that would show up on sensors. This was something entirely different. "Admiral," Lieutenant Miracle said, "we are receiving a transmission from the Resonari science vessel, Crystal Mind. They are equipped with the most advanced sensors in the Coalition fleet." "Put them through," Zethkara ordered. The screen showed Captain Silvara, a Resonari scientist whose crystal body glowed with soft purple light. "Admiral, we have arrived at the coordinates where the human fleet was last seen. Our quantum sensors are detecting very unusual readings." "What kind of readings?" Zethkara asked. "Space-time distortions, sir. Very small, but they are there. It's as if the fabric of space itself was torn and then repaired. I have never seen anything like it in all my years of research." The bridge fell silent again. "Space-time distortions? were theoretical concepts that most species had studied but never observed. The technology needed to create such effects was beyond anything the Coalition possessed. Captain Silvara, are you saying that someone has technology that can manipulate space-time itself? Zethkara asked. I'm saying that the evidence suggests exactly that, Admiral. And if they can do this, then they have power far beyond anything we have ever encountered. As the hours passed, more Coalition ships arrived at the search area. Each one reported the same thing: empty space where the human fleet should have been. The mystery was complete and terrifying. Admiral Zethkara stood at the command center, looking out at the stars through the main view screen. Somewhere out there, 50,000 human lives hung in the balance. Somewhere out there, a force existed that could make an entire fleet disappear without a trace. The galaxy had just become a much more dangerous place, and no one knew what would happen next. 3 days had passed since the human fleet disappeared, and the Kepler 442 system was now filled with Coalition ships from every major species in the galaxy. Never before had so many different races worked together on a single investigation. Admiral Zethkara stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the organized chaos outside. Hundreds of vessels moved in careful patterns across the search area. Each species brought their own special technology. Hoping to find something that others might miss, the Zephyrians had deployed their quantum resonance scanners, massive devices that could detect the smallest changes in space itself. Their ships looked like giant insects with long metal arms reaching out into the void. Searching for traces of what had happened, the crystalline Resonari brought their dimensional phase detectors, technology that could see into other layers of reality that most species didn't even know existed. Their ships glowed with soft light as they worked, beautiful but alien to most observers. The warrior race Draknari contributed their battle sensors, devices designed to find hidden enemies and concealed weapons. If the human fleet had been destroyed by some kind of attack, the Draknari would find the evidence. Even the mysterious ethereals had sent a ship, something they rarely did. Their vessel was barely visible, shifting between solid and transparent as it moved through space like a ghost. Report from the science teams, Lieutenant Miratal announced from her station. The Zephyrian quantum scanners have found something unusual. Admiral Zethkara turned his attention to the main screen, which now showed Captain Clichter of the Zephyrian research vessel Deep Scanner. Admiral, Clichter said, his large compound eyes reflecting the lights of his ship's instruments. We have discovered microscopic tears in the fabric of space-time. They are very small, but they are scattered throughout the area where the human fleet disappeared. Tears in space-time? Zethkara repeated. How is that possible? We don't know, sir, but the pattern is not random. The tears appear to have been created artificially. Someone or something made them on purpose. Commander Velther looked up from the science station, his crystal body flickering with excitement. Admiral, this matches what our dimensional phase detectors are finding. We are seeing evidence of forced dimensional displacement. Explain that in simple terms, Zethkara ordered. Imagine space as a piece of cloth, Velther said. Now imagine someone taking a sharp knife and making many small cuts in that cloth. The cuts we are finding suggest that someone used incredible technology to slice through reality itself. The implications were frightening. If someone had the power to cut through space-time, they had technology far beyond anything the Coalition had ever encountered. Such power could threaten not just single fleets but entire planets. Sir, the communications officer called out, we are receiving a transmission from the Draknari battleship, Ionfang. General Korthek says his weapon scanners have found traces of unknown energy signatures. The screen switched to show General Korthek, a massive Draknari warrior with scars covering his face from many battles. His people were known throughout the galaxy as the finest fighters, but even he looked concerned. Admiral Zethkara growled, my sensors detect energy residue unlike anything in our databases. The signature is completely unknown, but the power levels are beyond our understanding. Whatever created this energy could destroy my entire battle group without effort. This was troubling news. The Draknari battleships were among the most powerful. Vessels in the galaxy. If General Korthak was worried, then everyone should be worried. General, do you have any theory about what kind of weapon could create such energy signatures? Zethkara asked. No weapon in our experience, Admiral. This is something new, something we have never encountered before. More reports came in throughout the day, each one adding to the mystery. The ethereal ship detected what they called dimensional echoes, traces of movement between different layers of reality. The human ships that had arrived to help in the search found their own instruments going crazy, detecting readings that made no sense according to human science. Dr. Silvara from the Resonari science vessel Crystal Mind requested a private communication with Admiral Zethkara. When her image appeared on the screen, her crystal body was glowing brighter than usual, a sign that she was very excited or very worried. Admiral, she said, I need to share something with you that we discovered, but I don't want to broadcast it to all the ships in the fleet. What is it, Doctor? Zethkara asked, moving to a private communication booth. We have been analyzing the space-time tears that the Zephyrians found. Admiral, these tears are not random damage. They form a pattern, a very complex mathematical pattern. What kind of pattern? It's like a signature, sir. As if whoever created these tears wanted to leave a message. But the mathematics involved are so advanced that we can barely understand them. Whoever did this has knowledge of physics that is centuries ahead of our own. Zethkara felt a chill run through his body. Doctor, are you suggesting that this was intentional? That someone wanted us to find these patterns? I believe so, Admiral. And there's something else. The patterns are still active. The tears in spacetime are not healing naturally as they should. Something is keeping them open. This was the most disturbing news yet. If the spacetime tears were being kept open on purpose, it meant that whoever had created them might still be nearby, watching and waiting. Doctor, how long can these tears remain open? Zethkara asked. Unknown, sir. In theory, they should close within hours. But these have been stable for 3 days now. Someone with incredible technology is maintaining them. After the communication ended, Zethkara called a meeting of all the senior officers from the coalition ships, representatives from each species. Gathered in the main conference room of his flagship, their different forms creating a strange but impressive sight, Captain Clichter spoke first. The quantum resonance data shows that the tears in spacetime were created by technology that works on principles we don't understand. The energy required would be enormous, more than our largest power stations could generate. General Korthak slammed his fist on the table. Then we are dealing with an enemy that has weapons beyond our ability to fight. My people have faced many threats, but this is something new. The ethereal representative, barely visible as a shifting form of light and shadow, spoke in a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. We sense something moving in the spaces between realities, something that exists in dimensions we cannot fully perceive. Dr. Silvara added, the mathematical patterns suggest intelligence far beyond our current understanding. Whoever did this is not just technologically advanced, they think in ways that are completely alien to us. Admiral Chun's holographic image appeared as she joined the meeting from her flagship. Has anyone considered that this might not be an attack? She asked. The room fell silent. Everyone had been assuming that the human fleet had been destroyed or captured by some enemy force. What do you mean, Admiral Chun? Zethkara asked. I've been thinking about the evidence, she replied. No debris, no distress signals, no signs of struggle. What if my people weren't taken by force? What if they left voluntarily? But why would they leave without telling anyone? Captain Clichter asked. I don't know, Admiral Chun admitted. But humans have always been curious about new technology and new possibilities. If they discovered something amazing, they might have acted quickly without waiting for orders. General Korthak growled. You suggest that your people found this space-time technology and used it themselves? It's possible, Admiral Chun said. Humans are good at adapting new technology quickly, maybe too quickly sometimes. Dr. Silvara's crystal body flickered with thought. Admiral Chun, that is an interesting theory. but the level of technology required would take decades to understand and implement. Your fleet disappeared in seconds. Unless, the ethereal representative whispered, the technology was offered to them by someone else. This possibility hung in the air like a dark cloud. If some unknown force had given the humans advanced technology, what did they want in return? And why choose the humans instead of one of the older, more established species? As the meeting continued, more strange reports came in from the search teams. Zephyrian scanners detected what they called quantum shadows, areas where space itself seemed to remember that something had been there. The Resonari found traces of dimensional energy that pulsed like a heartbeat, as if something alive was controlling it. Most disturbing of all, several ships reported that their instruments had begun behaving strangely. Sensors would suddenly show readings from empty space, as if ghost ships were moving through the area. Communication systems picked up signals that couldn't be decoded, whispers in the darkness that made no sense. Captain Vorthak of the Coalition patrol ship Starwatch reported that his crew was becoming nervous. "My people are experienced spacers," he said over the communication link, "but they say this place feels wrong, like we are being watched by something we can't see." Similar reports came in from other ships, crew members from different species. All described the same feeling, that something was present in the area, something that existed just beyond the edge of perception. Dr. Silvara made another discovery that added to the mystery. "Admiral, we have found that the space-time tiers are not just random cuts, they form a three-dimensional map of some kind. When we plot their positions in space, they create a complex geometric shape." "What kind of shape?" Zethkara asked. "We're not sure, sir. It's like a star, but with more dimensions than we can easily visualize. The mathematics suggest it might be a navigation marker or a dimensional anchor of some kind." As night fell on the third day of searching, Admiral Zethkara stood alone on his bridge, looking out at the hundreds of ships scattered across the search area. Each one represented the best technology and knowledge of its species, yet they had found nothing but mysteries and impossible evidence. The human fleet was still missing. 50,000 people were still unaccounted for. And somewhere in the darkness of space, forces existed that could manipulate reality itself. What worried Admiral Zethkara most was not what they had found, but what they hadn't found. There were no signs of struggle, no evidence of destruction, no traces of the humans themselves. It was as if the entire Third Fleet had simply decided to step out of normal reality and go somewhere else. But where could they have gone? And more importantly, when would they come back? As he watched the stars, Admiral Zethkara couldn't shake the feeling that the mystery of the missing human fleet was only the beginning. Something was coming, something that would change everything the galaxy thought it knew about the nature of reality itself. The search would continue, but deep in his heart, he knew they would not find the answers they were looking for in empty space. The real answers were somewhere else entirely, in places that existed beyond the normal understanding of physics and reality. And whatever those answers were, Admiral Zethkara was not sure the galaxy was ready for them. 7 days after the human fleet disappeared, everything changed. Admiral Zethkara was reviewing the latest reports when every alarm on his ship began screaming at once. Red lights flashed across the bridge as his crew rushed to their stations, with expressions of panic on their faces. "What is happening?" Zethkara demanded, but before anyone could answer, Lieutenant Miratile's voice cut through the noise. "Sir, massive energy signatures detected. They're moving faster than anything we've ever recorded." The main screen activated, showing a star map of the local sector. Bright dots were moving across it at incredible speeds, faster than light travel, but without any propulsion signatures that the Coalition sensors could identify. "How fast are they moving?" Zethkara asked, his forearms gripping the command rail. "So they're traveling at speeds that should be impossible. Our computers can barely track them. They're moving through space like it doesn't exist, Commander." Velther looked up from his science station, his crystal body flickering with amazement and fear. "Admiral, these energy signatures match the residue we found at the disappearance site. But the power levels are 1,000 times stronger now. General Korthek's voice came over the communication system from his battleship. Admiral Zethkara, my weapons are tracking multiple contacts moving through our formation, but they're not showing up on our visual sensors. It's like they're here but not here at the same time. The impossible was happening before their eyes. Objects were moving through space faster than light, but they were somehow doing it without using any known technology. No warp drives, no jump gates, no hyperspace tunnels. They were simply moving through normal space as if the laws of physics didn't apply to them. Sir, Lieutenant Miratal called out, the energy signatures are heading straight for Coalition space. At their current speed, they will reach Nexus Prime in less than 6 hours. Nexus Prime was the capital world of the Galactic Coalition, home to billions of beings from dozens of species. If these unknown objects were hostile, the destruction would be beyond imagination. Send an emergency message to all Coalition fleets, Zethkara ordered. Tell them to prepare for a possible attack, and get me a direct line to the Coalition Council. Within minutes, the most powerful leaders in the galaxy were connected in an emergency session. Species that had been enemies for centuries put aside their differences to face this new threat together. Chancellor Mordain of the Vorthic Empire spoke first. What are we dealing with? Our sensors show energy signatures unlike anything in our databases. President Kalatar of the Zephrine Collective added, our quantum scanners indicate that these objects are moving through multiple dimensions simultaneously. This should be impossible according to all known physics. Admiral Chun appeared on the communication link from Earth space, her face pale but determined. Could this be related to my missing fleet? Dr. Silvar from the Resonari science vessel had been monitoring the energy patterns. Coalition leaders, I believe Admiral Chun is correct. The energy signatures match what we found at the disappearance site. But there's something else. The objects are not moving randomly. They're following a precise course directly toward our most important systems. You're saying they know where our capitals are? Chancellor Mordain asked. Yes, sir. They're moving, with purpose and knowledge of our space. This is not an accidental encounter. The next few hours were the most tense in Coalition history. Every ship in the galaxy was put on high alert. Planetary defense systems were activated on hundreds of worlds. Billions of beings watched their skies, waiting for something they couldn't understand or fight. The mysterious objects continued their impossible journey through space, leaving trails of energy that made Coalition. Scientists questioned everything they thought they knew about reality. Dr. Velther made a discovery that changed everything. Admiral, I have been analyzing the movement patterns of these objects. They're not just moving through space. They're moving through space-time itself. They exist in our dimension and other dimensions at the same time. What does that mean? Zethkara asked. It means they can be everywhere and nowhere. They can move through solid matter, ignore gravity, and travel faster than light because they're not limited by the normal rules of physics. They exist in a state that we don't have words for. As the objects approached Coalition space, something unexpected happened. They began to slow down. The impossible speeds decreased until the energy signatures were moving at normal space travel velocities. They're entering normal space, Lieutenant Miratal reported. The energy signatures are becoming more stable. Then, for the first time in 7 days, Coalition sensors detected something familiar. Ship signatures, human ship signatures. Admiral, Commander Velther said, his voice filled with amazement, I'm reading 200 human vessels. The same. Ships that disappeared from the Kepler 442 system. The bridge fell silent. Everyone stared at the sensor readings, trying to understand what they were seeing. The missing human fleet was back, but they were traveling in ways that defied every law of physics the Coalition knew. Open a communication channel, Zethkara ordered. Let's find out what happened to them. The main screen flickered and showed a familiar face. Captain Rodriguez of the human cruiser Earth's Pride appeared, but something was different about him. His eyes seemed to glow with a soft light, and his face had a calm expression that suggested he had seen things beyond normal. Understanding? Greetings, Admiral Zethkara, Captain Rodriguez said. We need to talk, Captain Rodriguez. The entire galaxy has been searching for you. Where have you been for the past 7 days? The human captain smiled, but it was not a normal smile. It was the smile of someone who had discovered secrets that changed everything. Admiral, we have been everywhere and nowhere. We have learned things about the nature of reality that will change how everyone thinks about existence itself. What are you talking about, Captain? Zethkara demanded. Where is your fleet? How are you moving through space like this? Our fleet is here, Admiral, all 200 ships. But we're not moving through space in the way you understand it. We have learned to exist in multiple dimensions at the same time. We can move through the spaces between realities. The communication channel expanded to include other coalition leaders. Admiral Chan's face appeared on the screen, and she looked both relieved and confused. Captain Rodriguez, this is Admiral Chun. Report your status immediately. What happened? To the Third Fleet? Admiral Chun, Captain Rodriguez replied. The Third Fleet has evolved. We have become something new. Something that exists beyond the normal limits of space and time. That's impossible, General Korthak growled over the communication link. No one can just evolve beyond physics. General, with respect, you're wrong. We have discovered that the universe has many more layers than anyone realized. Most species can only see and exist in 3 dimensions, but there are others. Many others. We have learned to move between them. Dr. Silvara's crystal body was glowing brightly with excitement. Captain, are you saying that you have mastered dimensional travel? That you can exist in multiple realities simultaneously? Yes. Doctor, that's exactly what I'm saying. And we're not the only ones who have learned this. There are others in the galaxy who have been watching and waiting for species to reach this level of understanding. This revelation sent shockwaves through the coalition leadership. The idea that there were other beings in the galaxy with such advanced abilities was both exciting and terrifying. Who are these others? Chancellor Mordain asked. Ancient beings, who transcended normal existence millions of years ago. They have been waiting for younger species to develop enough to join them. Humanity was chosen to be the first. Why humans? President Kalatar demanded. Why not the Resonari or the Ethereals? Why not species that have been exploring space for thousands of years? Captain Rodriguez's expression became more serious. Because humans have something that other species lack. We have a natural ability to adapt quickly to new ideas and new realities. When we were offered the chance to evolve beyond normal existence, we didn't hesitate, we embraced the change. Admiral Chun leaned forward. Captain, you're telling me that some unknown aliens gave our people this technology? Not gave, Admiral. Taught. They showed us how to unlock abilities that were already inside us. Humans have always been good at learning new things quickly. This was just the next step. The coalition leaders exchanged worried looks. If humans had been given abilities that put them beyond normal physics, what did that mean for the balance of power in the galaxy? Captain Rodriguez, Admiral Zethkara said carefully, what are your intentions now? Will you return to normal? Coalition duties? The human captain's smile returned. Admiral, we can never return to normal duties because we are no longer normal. We exist in ways that you can't imagine. We can be in multiple places at once. We can move through solid matter. We can travel instantly across the galaxy. But what do you want? General Korthak demanded. We want to share this gift with others who are ready for it. The ancient beings have been waiting for the galaxy to evolve beyond war and conflict. They believe that time is coming soon, Dr. Velther spoke up. Captain, how is this possible? How can biological beings exist in multiple dimensions? Doctor, you're thinking about this in the old way. We are not just biological anymore. We are something new, part matter, part energy, part consciousness. We exist as patterns of information that can manifest in any reality we choose. The implications were staggering. If humans had become beings of pure information that could exist anywhere in the universe, they were no longer just another species in the coalition. They had become something far more powerful. Captain, Admiral Chun said, I need to know if Earth is safe. Are you still loyal to humanity? Admiral, we are more human than we have ever been. But we are also more than human. We will protect Earth and all human colonies. But we will also protect any species that seeks to evolve beyond violence and hatred. As the conversation continued, Coalition sensors detected something amazing. The human ships were beginning to phase in and out of normal space. One moment they would be solid and visible, the next moment they would become translucent like ghosts. Sometimes they would disappear completely, only to reappear somewhere else entirely. They're demonstrating their abilities, Dr. Silvara observed. They want us to see what they can do. The demonstration was both beautiful and terrifying. Human. Ships move through space like dancers, flowing from one position to another without crossing the space between. They pass through asteroids and space stations without causing any damage, existing in the same space but in different dimensions. Admiral Zethkara, Captain Rodriguez said, we want the Coalition to understand that we have not become your enemies. We have become your protectors. But protection comes with conditions. What conditions? Zethkara asked, though he was afraid to hear the answer. The galaxy must begin to move beyond war. Species must learn to work together instead of fighting each other. And most importantly, no one must try to use our abilities for destructive purposes. The message was clear. Humanity had evolved beyond the physical limitations that bound other species, and they intended to use their new power to reshape the galaxy, according to their own vision of peace and cooperation. Whether the other species were ready for such changes remained to be seen. The Coalition Council emergency session had been running for 12 hours when Admiral Zethkar received the message that changed everything. The human fleet was approaching Nexus Prime, the capital world of the galaxy, and they were requesting permission to demonstrate their new abilities to all Coalition leaders in person. Absolutely not, General Korthak declared over the communication link. We cannot allow unknown entities near our most important world. This could be a trap. Admiral Chun's holographic image flickered with frustration. General, these are my people. Whatever they have become, they were human when they left. I believe we should hear them out. Chancellor Mordain of the Vorthic Empire leaned forward in his seat. Admiral Chun, your people claim to have abilities that make them more powerful than our entire combined fleets. How do we know they won't simply take control of our government? Dr. Silvara's crystal body glowed with scientific curiosity. Council. Members, this is the greatest discovery in galactic history. We cannot let fear prevent us from learning about dimensional transcendence. The knowledge they possess could advance our entire civilization by thousands of years. President Kalatar of the Zephyrian Collective spoke carefully. Dr. Silvara, advancement means nothing if it comes at the cost of our freedom. These beings, whatever they are now, have power beyond our ability to resist. What stops them from imposing their will on the entire galaxy? The debate continued for hours, but it was interrupted by an urgent message from Nexus Prime Defense. Command. Admiral Turville, the commander of the capital world's defenses, appeared on the emergency channel with a look of complete shock on his face. Council members, Admiral Turville said, his voice shaking, the human fleet has arrived. They didn't come through normal space. They just appeared in orbit around Nexus Prime. What do you mean they appeared? Chancellor Mordain demanded. I mean, one moment our sensors showed empty space, and the next moment 200 human ships were floating above our planet. They bypassed every defense system, every sensor grid, every early warning station. They're just here. The council chamber fell silent. The impossibility of what Admiral Turville was describing sank in slowly. The most heavily defended world in the galaxy, protected by thousands of ships and the most advanced technology available, had been approached without anyone detecting the arrival. Admiral Turville, Admiral Zethkara said, are your defenses functional? Can you target the human ships? Sir, that's the strange part. Our weapon systems can see the human ships, but when we try to lock onto them, they phase in and out of our targeting computers. It's like they're here and not here at the same time. General Korthak's angry voice came over the communication link. Admiral Turville, fire a warning shot. Show them that we are not defenseless. Sir, we tried that. Our weapons passed right through their ships without causing any damage. The energy beams went through them like they were made of air. This news sent waves of fear through the Council. If the Coalition's most powerful weapons couldn't even touch the human ships, then the humans could do whatever they wanted without any opposition. Council members, a new voice said over the communication system. It was Captain Rodriguez again, but this time his image appeared as a three-dimensional hologram in the center of the council chamber without anyone activating the communication equipment. How are you projecting into our secured chamber? Chancellor Mordain demanded. Captain Rodriguez smiled with that same calm expression that suggested he had seen wonders beyond imagination. Chancellor, security means very little when you can exist in multiple dimensions. We can be anywhere we choose to. What do you want from us? President Kalatar asked. We want to show you what we have become. We want you to understand that we are not your enemies, but we are also no longer bound by the same rules that govern your existence. Admiral Chun spoke up. Captain Rodriguez, I order you to explain what happened to the Third Fleet. Give me a full report. Captain Rodriguez turned to face Admiral Chun's hologram. Admiral, the Third Fleet encountered representatives of the Elder Race while on patrol near Kepler 442. These beings have existed in dimensional space for millions of years. They have been watching the galaxy, waiting for species to evolve beyond warfare and hatred. And they chose humans for this evolution? Dr. Silvara asked, her crystal body flickering with excitement. They chose us because we showed the greatest potential for rapid adaptation. When they offered to teach us the secrets of dimensional existence, we accepted without hesitation. The transformation took 7 days. What kind of transformation? Admiral Zethkara demanded. We learned to separate our consciousness from our physical bodies. We discovered how to exist as patterns of information that can manifest in any reality. We are still human, but we are also more than human. General Korthak's voice was filled with suspicion. You claim to be human, but you have powers that make you gods. How do we know you haven't been taken over by these elder beings? General, we understand your concern. That's why we want to demonstrate our abilities to you directly. We want you to see that we are still the same people who served in the Coalition fleet, but with expanded capabilities. Chancellor Mordain leaned back in his chair. What kind of demonstration? We want to show you dimensional space. We want to take representatives from each major species on a journey to see the universe as we now see it. That sounds like a trap, President Kalatar said immediately. President, if we wanted to harm you, we could have done so already. We appeared in your most secure location without being detected. We can phase through your weapons without being harmed. If we were your enemies, this conversation would not be happening. Dr. Silvara spoke up eagerly. I volunteer to go. This is the greatest scientific opportunity in galactic history. We cannot pass it up because of fear. Absolutely not, General Korthak growled. We cannot risk our leaders on the word of beings we don't understand. General, Captain Rodriguez said, we understand your caution. But consider this, if we can show you dimensional space, you will understand that the universe is far larger and more complex than anyone has imagined. The knowledge we have gained could solve many of the problems that have plagued the galaxy for centuries. Admiral Chun made a decision. Captain Rodriguez, I will come aboard your ship as a representative of humanity. If you are still my people, you will treat me with respect and return me safely. Admiral, I would be honored to show you what we have discovered. Chancellor Mordain stood up from the seat. If Admiral Chun is willing to take this risk, then I will join her as a representative of the Vorthic Empire. Dr. Silvara's excitement was visible in the bright glow of her crystal body, and I will represent the Resonari. This opportunity is too important to miss. General Korthak was clearly unhappy, but he also understood the political necessity. Fine, I will come as well, representing the Draknari. But if this is a trap, I will make sure you pay for it. President Kalatar hesitated, then nodded. The Zephyrian Collective will also send a representative. I will come myself. Within an hour, The 5 leaders were transported to the human flagship Earth's Pride, but the transportation was unlike anything they had experienced before. One moment they were standing in their respective ships, and the next moment they were materializing inside the human vessel without any sensation of movement, the interior of Earth's Pride looked familiar at first, but as they looked more closely, they realized that walls were sometimes transparent, showing views of space that should have been impossible from their location. Corridors seemed to stretch in directions that defied geometry, and crew members would occasionally walk through solid walls as if they weren't there. Captain Rodriguez met them in what appeared to be the main conference room, though the space seemed to change size and shape depending on where they looked. "Welcome aboard, leaders of the Coalition," he said. "What you are seeing is a ship that exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously. We can make it solid when we need to, or allow it to phase through matter when that serves our purposes." Admiral Chun looked around in amazement. "Captain, how is any of this possible?" "Admiral, reality is much more flexible than most beings realize. When you understand that consciousness is not limited to biological brains, and that information can exist independently of matter, you can begin to manipulate the fundamental forces that shape existence." General Korthak was studying the walls, trying to understand how they could be solid and transparent at the same time. "Are you saying that you control reality with your minds?" "General, we don't control reality. We participate in it more fully. We have learned to exist as consciousness that can take physical form when needed, or exist as pure information when that is more useful." Dr. Silvara was recording everything with her instruments, but the readings made no sense. "Captain, my sensors are detecting energy patterns that shouldn't be possible. How do you generate the power for this?" "Doctor, we don't generate power in the way you understand it. We draw energy directly from dimensional space itself. The universe contains infinite energy once you know how to access it." "Show us, Chancellor." Mordain demanded. "Show us this dimensional space you speak of." Captain Rodriguez nodded. "Very well. But I must warn you, what you are about to see will change how you think about existence itself." The conference room around them began to change. The walls became transparent, then disappeared entirely. Suddenly, the coalition leaders found themselves floating in space, but it was not normal space. Colors existed that had no names, and geometric shapes moved in patterns that hurt to look at directly. "This is dimensional space," Captain Rodriguez explained, his voice somehow reaching them despite the lack of air. "This is where consciousness exists when it is not limited by physical matter. Here, thought becomes reality and distance has no meaning." They could see the normal universe spread out below them like a flat picture, while around them swirled currents of pure energy and information. Beings of light moved through this space like cosmic whales swimming through an ocean of possibility. "These are the elder beings who taught us," Captain Rodriguez said, gesturing to the massive forms of light. "They have existed here for millions of years, watching younger species grow and evolve." President Kalatar's compound eyes were trying to process sights that should have been impossible. "How many species have achieved this level of existence?" "Very few," Captain Rodriguez replied. "Most species become too set in their ways to accept such a fundamental change. Humans were different. We adapted quickly and completely." One of the elder beings approached them, and without words, knowledge flowed into their minds. They understood that the universe contained thousands of dimensions, most of them empty of life. They learned that consciousness was the fundamental force that shaped reality, and that biological evolution was only the first step in a much longer journey. General Korthak felt his warrior instincts rebelling against what he was experiencing. "This is too much power for any species to possess. How do we know you won't use it to conquer the galaxy?" The elder being's response came as pure understanding rather than words. The coalition leaders suddenly knew that species which achieved dimensional existence naturally lost interest in conquest and warfare. When you could exist anywhere in the universe and create anything you needed with pure thought, there was no reason to fight others for resources or territory. "Do you understand now?" Captain Rodriguez asked as the dimensional space began to fade around them. This is why we were chosen. Humans have the rare combination of curiosity and adaptability needed to make this transition quickly. They found themselves back in the conference room aboard Earth's Pride, but everything looked different now. They had seen reality from a higher perspective, and the normal universe seemed small and limited in comparison. Dr. Silvara was the first to speak. The implications are staggering. If consciousness can exist independently of matter, then death is not an ending but a transformation. Exactly, Captain Rodriguez confirmed. The elder beings offered this gift to humanity because they believe we can help other species make the same transition when they are ready. Admiral Chun looked around at her fellow leaders. So what happens now? How does this change the coalition? That, Captain Rodriguez said with his mysterious smile, depends on what you choose to do with this knowledge. The coalition leaders returned to their ships changed beings. What they had seen in dimensional space was beyond anything their people had imagined possible. The knowledge that consciousness could exist beyond physical death, that reality could be shaped by thought, and that infinite energy was available to those who understood how to access it would transform galactic civilization forever. But first, they had to decide what to do about humanity's new role in the galaxy. Admiral Zeth Kara called an emergency session of the full Coalition Council. Representatives from over 100 species gathered in the Great Assembly Hall on Nexus Prime, while billions more watched the proceedings from across the galaxy. Everyone knew that the decisions made in this room would determine the future of all sentient life. Fellow beings, Admiral Zeth Kara began, we face a situation unlike any in galactic history. Humanity has evolved beyond our understanding and gained abilities that make them more powerful than all our fleets combined. We must decide how to respond to this new reality. The assembly hall erupted in voices as representatives from different species began arguing among themselves. Some called for immediate military action against the humans, despite knowing that such action would be useless. Others demanded that the humans share their technology with all species equally. Still others suggested that the coalition should accept human leadership and guidance. Chancellor Mordain stood up to address the assembly. I have seen what the humans have become with my own eyes. They exist in ways that we cannot comprehend. But I do not believe they are our enemies. They could have destroyed us all by now if that was their intention. General Korthek disagreed strongly. Chancellor, power corrupts all beings. No species should have the ability to control reality itself. The humans may claim to be peaceful now, but what happens when they decide that other species are inferior and should be eliminated? Dr. Silvara's crystal body glowed as she spoke. General, you are thinking about this situation with old ideas? The beings who achieve dimensional existence lose interest in domination because they no longer need to compete for resources. They can create whatever they need with pure thought. President Kalatar added his voice to the debate. Dr. Silvara, that may be true, but it still means that humanity has become a different type of being entirely. How can we have equal relationships with beings who can ignore the laws of physics? The debate continued for hours, but it was interrupted when Captain Rodriguez appeared in the center of the assembly hall without warning. His holographic image was so realistic that many representatives jumped back in surprise. Leaders of the coalition, he said in his calm voice, I can hear your discussions and I understand your concerns. That is why humanity would like to make you an offer. Admiral Zeth Kara stood up from his seat. Captain Rodriguez, this is a private session of the Coalition Council. How are you projecting into our secured chamber? Admiral, when you exist in multiple dimensions, security barriers become meaningless, but I am not here to threaten you. I am here to offer you a choice. What kind of choice? Chancellor Mordain asked. The elder beings who taught us dimensional existence have been watching the galaxy for millions of years. They have seen countless species rise and fall, fight and destroy each other, repeat the same mistakes over and over. They believe it is time for the galaxy to move beyond war and hatred. And if we refuse, General Korthek demanded, General, there is no refusal because there is no demand. This is not an ultimatum. This is an invitation to evolve beyond the limitations that have trapped galactic civilization for thousands of years. Dr. Silvara leaned forward with interest. Captain, are you saying that other species can learn dimensional existence as well? Doctor, any species can learn these abilities if they are ready to abandon warfare and embrace cooperation. But the process requires a complete change in thinking. You cannot exist in dimensional space while holding on to hatred and fear. President Kalatar spoke up. What about species that refuse to change? What happens to them? President, nothing happens to them. They continue to exist as they always have. But they will be limited to normal space while others move beyond those boundaries. Eventually, they may choose to evolve as well, or they may remain content with their current existence. This was not what many of the coalition representatives had expected to hear. They had prepared for demands and threats, not invitations and choices. Ambassador Velkrin of the Hegemony of Worlds, the coalition's traditional enemy, stood up to speak. Captain Rodriguez, the Hegemony has been at war with the coalition for 300 years. Are you saying that this conflict must end for us to gain these abilities? Ambassador, I am saying that beings who exist in dimensional space have no interest in fighting over planets and resources. When you can exist anywhere in the universe and create anything you need, there is no reason for war. But what about justice? Demanded Senator Korth of the Regalian Republic. What about punishing those who have committed crimes? What about defending the innocent? Captain Rodriguez's expression became more serious. Senator, justice, and protection are still important. But they are approached differently by dimensional beings. When you can exist in multiple realities simultaneously, you can prevent crimes before they happen. When you can understand the thoughts and motivations of others, you can address the causes of evil rather than just punishing its effects. The assembly hall fell quiet as the representatives considered these words. The idea that crime could be prevented rather than punished was revolutionary. The concept that understanding could replace judgment challenged the foundation of every legal system in the galaxy. Admiral Chun's holographic image appeared beside Captain Rodriguez. Council members, I want you to know that Earth has made its decision. We accept humanity's evolution and we support their new role in the galaxy. We believe this is the next step in the development of all intelligent life. Admiral Chun, Admiral Zethkara said, are you saying that Earth's government approves of what has happened to your fleet? Admiral, I am saying that after seeing what dimensional existence offers, Earth's government believes this is the greatest opportunity in human history. We are proud that our species was chosen to take this step first. General Korthek stood up angrily. So humanity gets to become gods while the rest of us remain limited to normal existence? How is that fair? General, Captain Rodriguez replied, fairness is not the issue. Readiness is the issue. The elder beings chose humanity because we demonstrated the ability to adapt quickly to new realities. But they are willing to teach any species that shows the same readiness. What kind of readiness? Dr. Silvara asked eagerly. Doctor, a species must abandon the use of violence to solve problems. They must learn to work together instead of competing against each other. They must accept that consciousness is more important than physical form. And most importantly, they must be willing to give up the illusion of control and accept that they are part of something much larger than themselves. These requirements sent waves of discussion through the assembly. Some species had spent thousands of years building their identities around military strength and competitive advantage. Others had religious beliefs that emphasized the importance of physical form. The changes required would be fundamental and difficult. Ambassador Trelver of the Peaceful Centauri Union spoke up. Captain Rodriguez, the Centauri have not engaged in warfare for over 2 centuries. We believe in cooperation and understanding. Would we be candidates for this evolution? Ambassador, the Centauri are among the species that the elder beings consider most ready for dimensional existence. Your people have already taken many of the steps necessary for this transition. This news created excitement among some representatives, and jealousy among others. If the peaceful species were favored for evolution, what did that say about the warrior races and competitive civilizations? President Kalatar asked the question that many were thinking. Captain, what happens to species that cannot or will not make these changes? Will they be left behind while others become gods? President, no one will be left behind. But some species may need more time to develop the necessary qualities. The elder beings have been waiting for millions of years. They can wait longer, if needed. And in the meantime, General Korthek said with suspicion, humanity rules the galaxy because you have powers that no one else possesses. Captain Rodriguez shook his head. General, we do not want to rule anyone. Ruling requires control, and control is an illusion that dimensional beings have moved beyond. We want to guide and protect, not command and dominate. What kind of guidance? Chancellor Mordain asked. Chancellor, we will help settle disputes between species without violence. We will prevent wars before they start. We will protect peaceful civilizations from aggressive ones. We will share knowledge and resources to eliminate poverty and suffering. We will help any species that wants to evolve toward dimensional existence. Dr. Silvara's excitement was visible in the bright glow of her crystal body. Captain, will you share scientific knowledge with us? Can you help us understand the principles of dimensional physics? Doctor, we will share any knowledge that can be used for peaceful purposes, but we will not share technology that could be used for weapons or domination. The universe has seen enough destruction. The debate continued for many more hours as representatives struggled to understand what humanity's evolution meant for their own species and civilizations. Some embraced the possibility of transcending physical limitations. Others feared losing their cultural identity or military strength. Finally, Admiral Zethkara called for a preliminary vote on whether the coalition should accept humanity's new role as protectors and guides of galactic civilization. The vote was closer than many had expected. The peaceful species voted yes. Overwhelmingly, the warrior races were divided. The competitive civilizations mostly voted no. But in the end, the yes votes had a small majority. The coalition accepts humanity's offer of guidance and protection, Admiral Zethkara announced. We also request that the humans help us establish new principles for galactic civilization based on cooperation rather than competition. Captain Rodriguez smiled with genuine warmth. Admiral, we are honored by your trust. Humanity will do everything in our power to help the galaxy evolve toward a more peaceful and prosperous future. As the session ended, representatives returned to their ships to carry the news to their home worlds. Some species would embrace the changes immediately, others would resist for generations. But the galaxy had taken its first step toward a new type of existence. In the depths of dimensional space, the elder beings watched with satisfaction. After millions of years of waiting, they had finally found a species capable of leading others toward transcendence. The experiment that began with humanity's curiosity and adaptability would eventually transform every intelligent being in the galaxy. The age of warfare and scarcity was ending. The age of consciousness and infinite possibility was beginning. And at the center of it all, humanity stood ready to guide the galaxy toward a future that no one had dared to imagine possible.